So I'm going to draw it all out. Hold this in place because now there's nothing keeping my feeding tube in place. It could fall out. On our adventure.
Oh, you got freezing cold here.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. I am starting my day off by doing something I have never done before. I'm going to be checking the volume in my feeding tube balloon for the first time by myself. So here's my feeding tube, and do y'all like my tube we've had today? It's a little pink monster. I think it's cute. To give y'all a better idea of what's going on, here's a visual. This is the feeding tube we see on the outside of my abdomen. Then it goes through the hole, the stoma, into my stomach, and that is the balloon that inflates with water to keep the tube in place and anchor it so it doesn't fall out. And if you're new here, I have a GJ feeding tube because I have gastroparesis. So the G port is gastric. It ends in my stomach, so I can vent and drain excess stomach acid and trapped air that builds up due to my gastroparesis. And then the jejunal portion is this long tubing that ends in my small intestine, and that's where we run my nutrition because my stomach doesn't work very well at all to digest anything because of my gastroparesis. And you can learn more about my GP in my chronic illness video. Now, I've had my GJ button for a few months, and I never used to check the balloon. Some people don't and have no problems with it, but a few weeks ago, my feeding tube rotated and it kinked. The jejunal tubing inside of me folded over on itself. I couldn't run nutrition, we couldn't fix it, so we had to replace the feeding tube. And my doctor and I think that happened because over time, water deflated out of the balloon, and that can happen. So now he's having me check it every 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since we got this new feeding tube replaced, and so it's time to check the balloon. So my GI walked me through how to do this, and it seems relatively easy, shouldn't hurt me at all. Basically, I just take this slip-tip syringe and plug it into the port on my feeding tube that accesses the balloon. Then I'm gonna draw out all the water and squirt it into this cup because I'm gonna throw it out. And the water in the balloon may be discolored since it's been sitting in my stomach, but that's nothing to be alarmed about. Then I use the same slip-tip syringe and replace the water. Some people use normal tap water. My doctor recommended that I use sterile or distilled water, and since distilled water is easier to get a hold of, that's what I'm going to use. And I just replaced the prescribed amount, which for me is 8 milliliters, so should be good to go. Okay, so I actually paused my feeds for this, and I'm just going to undo my grip lock and disconnect my jejunal tubing, just so it makes everything easier. And ta-da! This is the extension tubing for my J port, so I'm just gonna put that aside. Hand sanitizer. And the balloon port is right at the bottom here. So I've obviously never done this before. Aha! Okay, I think I'm in. Perfect. Oh, and it's not even discolored. Awesome. So I'm going to draw it all out. Okay, so wow, there's only 7 milliliters. I don't know if y'all can see, but there's barely over 7 milliliters in there. So over the course of the 2 weeks I've had this balloon, some water has definitely seeped out. So it's good to know I'm checking it for a reason. So then I'm gonna get rid of that. Hold this in place because now there's nothing keeping my feeding tube in place. It could fall out, which would not be good. Because if this falls out, it's not as simple like just put it back in. I'd have to go get imaging and make sure the jejunal tubing is in the right spot in my small intestine and all that. So I'm just gonna hold it real tight. Then I'm gonna get distilled water in the slip-tip syringe. Now I've got 8 milliliters of distilled water in the slip-tip syringe. I'm going to reinsert it and slowly inflate it. Ta-da! It's perfect. Well, that was super easy. It didn't hurt. I didn't have any sensation with that at all. And that's crazy that a whole milliliter had deflated out of the balloon over 2 weeks. So I'm glad I'm checking it now. And I think this is going to be a good solution to the kinking issues I've had with my previous tubes. Hopefully this means no more kinking or rotating. And if I feel like the feeding tube is getting too loose or rotating too much, I can check it at any time really. But 2 weeks seems like a good interval for me, so that went well.
Hippo. I think she's asleep. Harlow. Harlow, come. Oh. Were you right there? I thought you were laying on the tile by the front door. I'm sorry. Hi, pup. Come here. It's Harlow.
So my feeding tube feels secure right now. I guess that's a good word for it. It's okay for it to wiggle a little bit, but when I said it was rotating previously when it kinked, it was doing almost a full 360, and that's too much. So I think checking the balloon volume is a good thing for me to do. And today I'm honestly exhausted. Last night my pain was very severe. I didn't sleep well. I was either in too much pain to fall asleep, or I'd finally fall asleep and then my pain would wake me up again. So I don't think this pain flare has anything to do with IVIG. IVIG gives me very specific leg cramps, which I did get the night of and day after my infusion, but then they left. The pain I'm experiencing right now is my very familiar joint and muscular chronic pain, just worse than usual. And the flares started happening a few days before IVIG, especially the day before my infusion. My legs were giving me a lot of issues, so just something you gotta deal with as a chronic pain warrior. But today I'm getting more relief than I have been the past few days, so hopefully I'm headed in the right direction. Oh, she missed you. How was work?
That's fun. Hello.
She missed you. Oh, great. Look what you started.
Alright.
All right, Mom.
I'll see you soon, Lisa.
Yeah, Jed will bring that box for you.
Okay, good.
I love you.
Love you too.
Are you gonna come bend down and give me a hug?
Love you, baby.
Love you too, Mom.
Okay.
Are you gonna sleep here tonight or over there?
Yeah, over here, but I
Yeah.
have to keep up with things a while.
Okay. Well, we're in bed. Sleepy. He's growing a mustache. I'm not sure what I think about that.
It'll grow on you. Well, it'll grow on me. You don't have a choice.
I get it. Because it does grow on you. Anyways, I'm so thankful my pain seems to be easing. And yeah, just gonna have a good night's sleep. So with that, I'll say goodnight. And thanks for joining us on our adventure.